Hello and welcome to the Keeping Her Keys podcast. Today I am sharing a recording of a class I taught on Hekate and healing from trauma. I think we're all being traumatized right now with everything that's going on in the world. And for those of us who have significant trauma from earlier experiences in our lives, are coping with health issues in the present that probably have their roots in those traumas from childhood. For those of us who carry the trauma signature already, when the world is on fire, we can be activated. Now, part of this is that we've been through it before, and we carry a lot of empathy. Many of us are what's sometimes called empaths, right? Or we are tuned in to the energy of others. So when we see others suffering, we want to help them in some way. And at the same time, there is often a process where our own trauma responses are heightened. So if we have, for example, an autoimmune disorder that most likely had its roots in early childhood trauma that we may be experiencing, like like if you have fibromyalgia, you might have like a fibro flare up. Or for those of us with neurodivergence, coping with the stress of what's going on in the world right now often indexes on the trauma that may have been involved in exacerbating our neurodivergent tendencies. We know from the research, for example, that people who have ADHD, often the likelihood and the severity of ADHD is increased by early childhood trauma. Now, this is often known as adverse childhood events or ACEs. So if you are wondering about your own early childhood trauma, I recommend researching ACEs and seeing if any of those events apply to you. And of course, this is a talk about trauma. This is not meant to be a replacement for therapy or medical attention. I do know in my heart that Hecate has helped me heal from my trauma, both trauma stemming from childhood and adult experiences that just reinforced all of the issues that I had during childhood. And she has helped me heal into my unique wholeness. I've done this not just merely by working with Hecate, but also through therapy, so including dialectical behavior therapy, and a lot of personal growth and reflection, and learning to center myself and my health rather than always be lending my energy to others. And this is a crossroads that we all find ourselves at because as natural born healers, our wounds are often our greatest strength. They bring us that empathy and that caring concern for others and wanting to help others. But we need to be cautious of when our attention is so given to others, whether it's the geopolitical events of the day, doing Reiki for others, however it expresses itself. We need to be really mindful that the healer's ultimate work is to heal themselves, that the wounded healer is a superhero, and we can change this world. We can right the course that the world seems to be on right now through healing, through activism, and it begins by working through our own trauma. And if you, like me, are called to the mighty goddess Hecate as a way of exploring your own wounds and finding the path to healing, I offer you this episode. Should you have a copy of my book, Entering Hecate's Cave, this talk goes very well with the chapter on Paionios, which is an epithet of Hekate that can be translated as meaning the healer. Hail Hekate, hail Paionios, and congratulations for all of the work that you've done on yourself to heal into your unique wholeness. We've got this, witches. We are strong and resilient and resourceful, and Hekate can help see us through. Hello, and welcome to my witchy office. I'm going to be talking about healing, specifically healing from trauma that others have inflicted upon us. This is very central to my work and to my personal journey, that I connect to Hekate and other spirits and practice natural magic, journey into the deeper world, perform rituals, study my dreams, connect with botanicals, stones, and animal allies, that all of this merged together with solid psychological practices, that this unlocks transformative, enduring healing. And by healing, I mean the perception that we can become whole, that we are in need of mending, and that this journey towards wholeness is one of authenticity. And I focus upon the metaphor of Hecate's cave, the intentional interior work that we do to piece back together these pieces of ours that have been broken off due to trauma and so on. Now, the inspiration for this book comes from the story of Persephone. And early on in this story, which is recorded as the Homeric hymn to Demeter, Persephone is horribly victimized, and her innocence is gone. She is in great despair. And there is a line in it that stirred healing within me as soon as I read this line all these many years ago. And that is the dedication to this book. None of the immortal gods or mortal folk heard her cry, nor the olives shining with fruit, except the daughter of Perseus, tender-hearted Hecate, veiled in light, heard from her cave. And that, for me, unlocked this journey I've been on for so long now, following Hecate's torches and her rattling keys as she guides me to a deeper understanding of myself and the world, to be more connected to her deeper world of spirits, and to go deeper into a meaningful practice of natural magic that isn't fantastical, it's not trivial, it's deeply meaningful. And for me, all of this merged with psychological approaches that feel right and true and have been helpful to me personally. I'm never going to share anything that I don't have extensive personal experience with and expertise in. I don't do that. I come at this. This is a serious matter. This is not something that can be resolved without giving it and ourselves the proper attention we deserve and may have been denied by others. And this may have been so ingrained upon us, especially at an early age. that we don't even give ourselves the attention we deserve. So let's dive into this exploration. Specifically, I'm going to be talking about the chapter entitled Paionios, which is an epithet or title of Hekate that can be translated as the healer. So let's dive into this, and let's start with our candle ceremony. And I have the Paionios sigil on this candle. And when we are on this healing journey and we get to this moment where we say, I can't go on like this, things have got to change. Hekate, help me. I call these the Hekate bathroom floor moments. What can we do in that moment? We are overwhelmed in this information age that we live in with people telling us how to heal, how to fix what's wrong with us. There's so many out there. Some of them are wonderful, and the information should be heated. Others are not. They don't give a lot of consideration to this. It's very superficial, toxic positivity, and all of that. You know all about all of that. What can we do? I will say I have been doing this simple ritual daily for years and years. And this ritual helps me to center and ground. It helps to correct energy. And the act of connecting to the candle is so healing. So one thing you can do is join me in this simple practice. Let's begin. And if you have the capacity to put your energy into this, like feel the different vibrational shifts as we go through this. Cast your worries out. Bring in connection and protection. Let's cast that counterclockwise, left-handed circle and really lean into what we need to let go of, what we need to be cleansed of, what we need to banish, cords that need to be cut. And just set the intention that you are open to letting go of what doesn't serve you. You're courageous. Set that intention. Now let's cast the clockwise circle, the oso. This is the circle of protection and connection, of drawing towards us, while we are encircling ourselves in a safety net. What are you protecting yourself from? What are you connecting to? Just start to explore these questions. Allow, what am I releasing? What am I protecting from and connecting to? Allow these to take on a vitality within you. You can journal about it, do some sketching, create a playlist. However you express what you are working on. Just do it gently, and for Hecate's sake, do what feels right in here. If talking to Hekate after you do this simple ritual feels right, you can cry and tell her everything that's happened, your resentments, your anger, let it all out. You might want to write it all down. One of my favorite techniques is to get it all out of me when I am sad or angry. I write it all down and then I burn it in the fire, whatever works for you. But that aspect of the natural magic, connecting to something deeper, can be incredibly healing. So let's get started with this chapter entitled Paionios. So I open this chapter with a verse, really an invocation to Hekate as Paionios the healer. Of course, the epithet Paionios is not exclusive to Hekate, and there are many, many goddesses and spirits who are healers. For me, Hekate as Anima Mundi, soul of the world, goddess of witches, and so on. For me, she is so healing, and perhaps she is for you as well. The new moon, of course, is a very special time for Hecatean practitioners. That is the time when we pause, maybe give offerings to Hecate, maybe even take them to the three-way crossroads. But that is a very special night. And so this is a verse I wrote on one new moon, seeking healing. On this new moon, help me, Paionios. On this new moon, I choose compassion, courage, and wisdom from this day forward. Guide me, Paionios, so I may live within your mercy. On this new moon, I commit to honoring the light in myself and others, and to seeing the darkness in myself and others. Show me, Paionios, so I can see from the soul. On this new moon, I dedicate myself to grace and peace. Reveal them in me, Paionios. Render me an instrument of love and healing. May it be guided by your wisdom and blessed by your fierce love. I am free of limitations, safe, healed, and whole. The idea of wholeness, at least in how I see it, is that it is not to become free of dis-ease. Could be chronic conditions. Hecate in particular often is very important to those of us who have clinical diagnoses like PTSD, anxiety disorders, perhaps have a neurological diagnosis. All of these things, that make sense in certain settings. Many of us have had to overcome significant trauma, especially early attachment wounds and adverse childhood events, and also adult traumas, violence, neglect, invalidation, coercive control, all of these things. Many of us are here today as testimonies of endurance and strength and resilience. And yet we want to let go of some of these things that still eat at us, these hungry ghosts. And for me, wholeness is not this everything is perfect. Wholeness is living from the center of my being, seeing myself as the architect, high priestess of my own life, that I can consult with other sources. I am guided by Hecate and all of my spirits, the cards, all of those things that are so helpful. But yet, I am the one who is presiding over my healing temple. And as someone who lives with complex chronic pain, celiac disease, I have a bunch of clinical diagnoses that I won't bore you with. For myself, one of my affirmations is very simple, and yet I know it can be disturbing because I've shared this with people before and they've had strong reactions to it, but this works for me. One of my daily affirmations is my body is a temple of pain, and I am the high priestess, and I shall tend it well. I shall tend it well. to understand pain, be it psychological distress, bodily conditions, insomnia, addiction, the whole package, to understand that pain as a spirit that comes to us, that wants to be understood, explored, and ultimately honored. For me, that has been absolutely the key for healing. To not see pain as an enemy, but an ally and a teacher, for me, that has been the secret to where I am today, having this conversation with you. I know this can be radical to move from thinking that pain is the enemy and pain has to be fought and there's a battle to be waged against pain, to saying, hey, pain, I want to understand you so that we may heal together. And this is very akin to our shadow healing work, at least the way I teach it and what I've seen not only work for me, but work for hundreds of others, is seeking to understand it. This is we go into Hecate's cave with curiosity rather than wanting to run in and fix things in 60 seconds and run back out and, be who we were before. Healing is a journey that changes who we are. And for the last several months, I have been in the thick of a new phase of healing. And it requires, some contemplation. It doesn't require literally going to a cave and cutting cords with everybody in your life. I don't have that ability. I don't think I'd want to do it either. But it does require setting aside some time each and every day and saying, I deserve healing. I deserve a relief from this suffering. I am worth it. Lighting the candle, talking to Hecate if that's what works for you. Maybe carrying a crystal, drinking a botanical infusion. I always have one nearby. I've been working with licorice root quite a bit in addition to yarrow and pomegranate. Whatever it is for you, developing that simple practice in the Keeping Her Keys book, I call it the Witch's Hour of Power. In more recent years, I've changed to calling it quotidia. Quotidia just comes from the Latin for daily, but it sounds nice, right? So make it special, make it feel right for you, whatever you decide to call it, however much time you decide to spend doing it. For me, I am not one who can follow dogma, and I don't teach a dogmatic approach. If my work resonates for you, that's wonderful. If it doesn't, then I hope you find something else that does. I know my teaching works not only for me, but for many others. I know I research it, I contemplate, I connect to Hecate, and that, this book took 4 years to write. I do the best I can to be in service, to helping others find a way to their own wholeness. This is not dogma. This is not some weird cultish thing where you have to do a specific chant a certain number of times or Hecate's going to smite you down. Fundamentally, that is not healing for me. And I'm not going to start becoming that person who is saying these things. You know what is best for you. And if you are confused or bedraggled, overwhelmed, and if Hecate is that spirit who speaks to you and says, come into my cave, we'll sort this all out, then that's wonderful. If not, just I encourage you to keep going till you find something that is liberating for you, allows you to grow into wholeness, doesn't make you feel more shame. The last thing any of us need is more shame. And it is atrocious the way you get these online figures who say these things. You've got to do this, you've got to do that, or, you've got to do it this way, or Hekate is not going to be pleased and she'll abandon you and bad things will happen to you. I call baloney on all of that. It's not my experience. I know that that can have a certain appeal, that if we know the right way to do things, poof, life will get better. But that doesn't work that way for me. For me, it is about exploring and finding what feels right to me and then doing it. To be a devotee of Hekate demands our attention. It's not something that you do for 5 minutes once a month. It's something that is part of who you are. Whether you have time to do something in depth every day, it's not about saying these words or X amount of chronological minutes or any of those things. It is about being in that alignment of grace with her that is healing. I want to just talk a little bit more about this chapter and offer you some suggestions where I think where to begin. My doctorate is in relationships, so it's not surprising that that's what I emphasize. I know in all of my years of study and training and research that our relationship wounds are the ones who are the drivers of our lives. And by relationship wounds, this can be the whole spectrum from incredibly painful trauma to invalidation to, just invalidation is, I know that can be a tricky one. Invalidation is when you are with that person that you are in a relationship with, you don't feel valid. You don't feel seen. What you think doesn't matter. What you want doesn't matter. And even worse than not mattering, it's that it is wrong. And I have seen this so many times that witches, wonderful witches, have been so programmed that they are not good, that they are not worthy, that they fall into all kinds of traps laid by the unscrupulous. Some of these dogmatic charlatans that are out there telling us to do X, Y, and Z, for example, or back into abusive relationships. It's because this programming is so deep. In this chapter, I talk about getting to the root. I'm just going to read a little passage from this chapter. Paionios the healer had her way with me. I had always felt unwanted in my family of origin. Right out of high school, I ran off with a very damaged man who took his wounds out on me. But when I turned to psychological research, I took the first step towards healing myself. Through my early research on attachment, I learned how vital a supportive and consistent early primary caregiver was throughout the lifespan. I became obsessed with understanding and later developing the impacts of this early relationship, both as a way of helping others and preventing myself from damaging my son. What became clear over the years is that the best approach to preventing this sort of root damage from happening in the first place is through early intervention programs. I have learned that while it is possible to transmute that dysfunctional root, this isn't as easy as prevention. It's as if all of our healing efforts were akin to cutting off the visible part of a dandelion. If we have this kind of root damage and we're just snipping that dandelion from the top, not getting at the root. Going into Hecate's cave, I believe, can help us get to the root and see that root with compassion, seeking to understand it, not to give toxic pesticides to it and kill it and do battle with it, but to say, hey, something is nourishing this root and making it stronger, and I am going to understand that. And by withdrawing what is making this root stronger and feeding that surface dandelion, that is how I can get to the root of this and transmute that dandelion. Dandelions are beautiful, healing, anti-inflammatory, so many good things about dandelions. Yet there is a war against them by some people. So thinking of that, how do we get to this root? How do we understand where the issues lie? In this chapter, I talk about attachment archetypes or attachment styles, as they're more popularly known. And this is really deep work. See, again, with our eyes adjusted to that higher acuity of Hecate's cave, answering the questions, these four little questions, honestly, and then seeing where we can go from there. And then I conclude the chapter with quite a bit on natural magic techniques, cord work. So cord work is one of my central practices of my witchcraft. Seeing actual cords as symbolic of the energetic cord that connects us to someone else, this is so transformative. And the technique is very simple. I talk about it extensively in the book, and this is another one thing that you can do right now. The attachment work, understanding the root, this is going to take some time. But once you ping on a relationship that either needs to have that energetic tether severed or cleansed, I talk about the two techniques in the book. Once you get to that place, the actual technique of this is easy and doesn't take long at all. You just need some kind of cord. It's good to, put some energy into a cord that is symbolic of the relationship you have with that other person. It could be a certain color, maybe, something like if it's a marriage, it could be a ribbon or something from the marriage or, so on. You could put some imagination into this. And I like the technique of attaching it to myself rather than using an image of me, but I'll leave that up to you. It's a little tricky, tying cords around yourself, but you'll figure it out. And then an image or a symbol of the person with which you want to cut that cord. And go into it with that energy, like I am cutting the energetic tether that is binding me to this person. There's also in another book of mine, Entering Hecate's Garden, there's the Rixapelite on crossing tincture, which can be used to kind of amplify this process. And then you sever the cord. So you've got it on your wrist, your left wrist, goes to the heart. Cord, the other end symbol or photo of the person. scissors or candle to sever it, and really hold that energy that you are severing that energetic tie to them. Now, this will have consequences. Things will change with that person. There may be a bit of a boomerang where they can sense on some level that you've cut the cord, and their troubling behavior gets amplified. So be prepared for that. And then I do like to bury, burn, get rid of the photo or symbol of the other person. It just kind of seals the deal. Cleansing. Cord cleansing is good when you feel like things have just gone awry in a relationship that you either want to maintain or needs to be maintained. Best case of this is co-parenting with someone who that you are no longer in a relationship with, and things are troubled, and you want that to be better so you can be a better parent to the child involved. Or work is another example like this where things go awry at work, friendships, so many examples of this, right? So that involves a similar process. Technique is the same, except instead of cutting that cord, you're going to go through a period of cleansing it. Now, you can do this with some moon water, sacred smoke. There's many different ways you can cleanse that cord. And instead of burying or releasing that symbol or photo of the person, you're going to elevate it and hold them, send them kindness and so on every day. So those are the two techniques that involve cord work in terms of our attachments. So I've covered a lot of ground in this short talk. Just to conclude, I'll say, doing a simple ritual every day is healing. Doing what works for you is healing. Not letting anybody else tell you they have the gospel truth and you got to do it or else. Don't let them. That's where the healing is. And finally, understanding how our difficulties and trauma and distress is connected to relationships, and that exploring our own orientation, it puts us back as that high priestess in our temple, or whatever title you like to use to see yourself as abiding in charge of your own life. Doing that can really make a difference. Getting to the root. This can help us let go of the things that really, really keep us bound. And we know from the research of many today, Gabor Mate, Peter Levine, internal family systems. There's so many of these thought leaders, who talk about how trauma has physical consequences. Bessel van der Kolk's The Body Keeps a Score, and so on. That trauma has physiological and psychological consequences. And the treatment for trauma is often about this interior journey. And I'm going to add one final note because I just threw up a whole bunch of names. I think that these straight, cisgendered white guys have a lot of expertise and can be very helpful. But ultimately, I have a very complex relationship with them because I do feel sometimes that they're walking a line between being cultish and guru-like, and also making people like me feel that although they're saying it wasn't my fault what was done to me, they are saying, like, if I could just get over it, then all of my fibromyalgia, my PTSD, all of these things would just magically go away. That's not gonna happen. I'm not gonna lie to you. Trauma permanently alters us, and then there's genetics and all of these things. So it's not as simple as these experts would have. And because of my past, I always rankle when any white guy, straight white cisgendered guy who positions himself as an expert in a suit jacket tries to tell me what to do. I'm not good with these people at all. But there is some wisdom there. And this is what I'm talking about in terms of going into this work, that you are in charge of it, that you can reject things that don't work for you. And if that there's unique things that work for you, do it. Um, and that Hekate as a spirit who can help you transform into your wholeness, that for me has been the key to absolutely finally letting go and healing so much, and not just psychologically or spiritually, but also physically. That although I do still have chronic pain, I live a busy, full life and feel so empowered. I hate to say blessed because it's such a overused word, right? Strange people use it a lot, but I feel very fortunate. It's not the absence of any pain. It's I know I'm so much greater than this pain, and I know I'm doing all I am capable of to manage and alleviate the pain by honoring it. So I hope this talk has brought you some comfort and a few practices that you might want to try. Paionios, the healer, may you be guided by her.